What is up, my fellow wizards, and welcome to another episode of Building EDH. Today I am bringing back a past reviewed deck, Korvold Fae-Cursed King. I reviewed him back in December. The link will be down below if you want to see the old version. This is the updated version. I wanted to ramp him up for the Cash Cards Unlimited and Frankenson's Commander Tournament that happened not too long ago. I'll get straight into the deck. Flying, whenever Korvold Fae-Cursed King enters the battlefield or attacks, sacrifice another permanent. Whenever you sacrifice a permanent, put a +1/+1 counter on Korvold and draw a card. The primary way that Korvold likes to win is with Squee the Immortal and Food Chain. So Food Chain says, remove a creature you control from the game, add X mana of any color to your mana pool, where X is the removed creature's converted mana cost +1. This may only be spent to play creature spells. And then we have Squee the Immortal. You may cast Squee the Immortal from your graveyard or from exile. So the plan here is to get Food Chain and Squee onto the battlefield. You can exile Squee to Food Chain, floating the mana, +1, and because of Squee's ability, you can cast Squee again from exile. So you're going to be casting and exiling Squee over and over again until you have infinite mana in Jund colors. Once you have infinite mana in Jund colors, you're going to cast Korvold from the command zone. His ETB will trigger, and Squee will get sacrificed, drawing you a card and putting a +1/+1 counter on Korvold. What you then want to do is exile Korvold to the Food Chain, putting it back into the command zone, and then casting Squee from the graveyard. Once you've done that, you can cast Korvold again, and repeat this process over and over again until you've drawn your entire deck. So once you've drawn your entire deck, I have a plethora of combos in the creature variety that are going to take advantage of the Food Chain. So we have persist creatures, sacrifice creatures, and +1/+1 counter creatures. So I'll give you a quick rundown. So you got a Goblin with persist. It's got -1/-1 counters whenever it dies and comes back. Either of these cards, Grumgully, Metallic Mimic, or Melira, Slavic Outcast, are going to either prevent negative counters or put +1/+1 counters on your persist goblins, allowing you to sacrifice them infinitely. And of course, we cannot do that unless we have our sacrifice outlets. So we got Goblin Bombardment, not a creature, but it'll do the damage that you need. Sling-Gang Lieutenant does the damage for you and is also a sacrifice outlet specifically for goblins. The Seer, sacrifice a creature, scry 1, and then you have Cirque Prospector, sacrifice a goblin, add a red. A lot of people in the comments from the last time I did a review on this deck said that a lot of these methods are not efficient, but what I found is that a lot of people do not see this type of combo coming. They'll usually expect more meta cards, and they kind of just see Seer as, oh, it's just a sack outlet for Korvold. They just kind of see Metallic Mimic, and the +1/+1 counters kind of give it away, so you try to play these last when the combo comes out, and then a lot of people just see the goblins as, oh, okay, it's a way to sack with Korvold and it'll come back so you can sack an additional time. But as mentioned, you can use any of these types of cards in a winning combination, doing damage to your opponent with either the Sling-Gang, the Goblin Bombardment, or Murderous Redcap. So I'm going to put these cards over here off to the side because I will be going through them and mentioning them with all the other cards in the deck throughout the video. So that said, let's get into the tutors of the deck. We're going to start off with Imperial Seal. You search your library for a card, shuffle your library, put that card on top. You lose 2 life. Gets any one of these pieces right on top of your deck. Next you got Vampiric Tutor, the exact same thing. You search your library for a card, put it on top, you lose 2 life. Now we got Worldly Tutor. You search your library for a creature card, reveal that card, shuffle your library, put that card on top. Now we got rid of some of the slower tutors. Here's Diabolic Intent. Diabolic Intent is a great card in this deck because it plays off of Korvold by sacrificing a creature, allowing him to draw a card, and you search your library for any card and put that card directly into your hand. Next we have Eldritch Evolution. Another additional cost to cast Eldritch Evolution. You sacrifice a creature, then you can search your library for any creature card with X being 2 plus the sacrifice creature's converted mana cost and put it directly into play. Again, these can search out any of these combos and get it ready to play. Entomb. Search your library for a card and put that card into your graveyard, then shuffle your library. Entomb is basically 1 mana instant speed, get Squee. Next, you got Gamble. You got 1 mana, sorcery speed, but you search your library for a card, put that card into your hand, discard a card at random, and then shuffle your library. So we're hoping to get Squee with this the majority of the time, and if we end up discarding Squee, no big deal because we can get him back from the graveyard. So next we have Imperial Recruiter. 3-drop, whenever Imperial Recruiter enters the battlefield, search your library for a creature card with power 2 or less, reveal it, put it into your hand, and shuffle your library. Scuzzback Marauders is the only combo piece that we cannot tutor with this card, but everything else is fair play, so very useful. It can also be used as sack fodder for Korvold after it's done its duty. Next we have Demonic Tutor, pretty straightforward. 2 mana, search your library for any card, put it in your hand. Grim Tutor, 3 mana, search your library for a card, put that card into your hand, you lose 3 life. Goblin Matron, as you probably noticed, the majority of the combo pieces in the deck are all goblins, so Goblin Matron can search up any one of our goblin style combo pieces, put it into our hand, and once again, Korvold could use him as sack fodder once he's done doing his job. Survival of the Fittest, I could not put in my deck for the tournament, but I put him back in the deck afterwards because of that gold border made him technically illegal to play. No proxies were allowed in the Commander tournament, but you pay 1 green, you choose and discard a creature card, search your library for a creature card and put it into your hand. This can help you sacrifice an unneeded combo piece. It could help you discard a dork in your hand, and you can get the combo piece that you need and get ready to play it for 1 green. Signal of the Clans is a very useful card in this deck. Search your library for 3 creature cards, reveal them. If you reveal 3 cards with different names, choose one of them at random and put that card into your hand, shuffle the rest into your library. If you notice, I have 3 persist creatures. Other than Goblin Bombardment, I have 3 sacrifice outlet creatures, and then I've got 3 creatures that can give me +1/+1 counters. So any combo piece I need, I just search for any of the 3, and it doesn't matter what random one I choose, the one that I need is going to go into my hand, no problem. So next we're going to move on to what I like to call the revival section. This is a great way to get back cards that you wanted to play early and you had to get rid of them because of Korvold or because somebody got rid of your creature. So you got Malakir Rebirth, you choose a target creature, you lose 2 life until end of turn. That creature gains whenever this creature dies, returned to the battlefield under its owner's control. It also doubles as a land in case we don't need to revive a creature but we do need to hit our land drop. Next we have Unearth. Return target creature card with converted mana cost 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. Again, other than Sling-Gang Lieutenant and Scuzzback Marauders, all of these creatures are 3 mana value or less, so you're going to be getting back 90% of your combo pieces if they're in the graveyard. Then you got Reanimate. You lose some life from this, but you pay 1 mana and it comes back into play. Noxious Revival. Best part about this card is you can pay Phyrexian mana, 2 life at instant speed, and it puts any card you need from your graveyard on top of your library. So do this at the end step and you're just drawing that card and you're ready to play it. And you have Reap the Past. This is a bit of a more expensive in terms of CMC card, but it's always helped me out. Return X cards at random from your graveyard to your hand, exile, Reap the Past. You can always make X the number of cards in your graveyard to guarantee you get the card that you need back, if not more. Then we're going to be moving on to the removal part of this deck. So starting out with Abrupt Decay. Golgari, Abrupt Decay can't be countered by spells or abilities, and you destroy target non-land permanent with converted mana cost 3 or less. This deck is built to go up against higher power decks, so you're going to be seeing a lot of people who are going to be, playing 1, 2, 3 drops primarily just so they can have a efficient mana base. So this pretty much gets anything that you need gone. Same thing with Assassin's Trophy. For 2 mana instant speed, destroy target permanent and opponent controls. Its controller may search the library for a basic land card and put it onto the battlefield. Then you got Beast Within. Again, this can hit any type of permanent, whether it be a land, a bad creature, an artifact, an enchantment, anything that you have that's threatening you, destroy it, and they get a 3/3 Beast creature token. Next up, we have Kenra's Transformation. You enchant a creature. When it enters the battlefield, you draw a card. Enchanted creature loses all abilities and is a green elk creature with base power and toughness 3/3. This is great to use against someone else's commander. It forces them to use their own removal to get rid of this card just so they can start activating the abilities of the creature that you cast it on. And then we got Fire Covenant. Fire Covenant deals X damage divided any way you choose among any number of target creatures, where X is equal to the amount of life you pay. So this card, you could pay 10, you can get rid of 5 2/2s, you can get rid of a wide variety of creatures that are causing problems for you. It's a very versatile card and very good in this deck. So now we are going to continue on with Culling Ritual. So destroy each non-land permanent with mana value 2 or less. Add black or green for each permanent destroyed this way. This has helped me win the game so many times. You play it, it destroys everyone's rocks, everyone's dorks, everyone's main combo pieces. It could hit some of your stuff, but with all the mana that you're gaining, you can easily cast a good combination of these cards to win the game from your hand. Next we got Return to Nature, 1 mana and instant speed, destroy target artifact and enchantment. It does give your opponents 4 life, but that's really not that big a deal. Next we have Corrosive Grip, destroy target artifact or enchantment, but this card has split second, meaning as long as the spell is on the stack, players can't cast spells or activate abilities that aren't mana abilities. I primarily wanted to have this card in there, not only as a good removal spot, but if somebody's trying to win on the stack or try to do, I don't know, like a dual caster mage or anything like that that involves infinite casting abilities, this says no, that's going to be done, and it stops them from winning. Then we got Return to Nature, 2 mana and instant speed to destroy target artifact or target enchantment with the added benefit of exiling target card from a graveyard, giving you a little bit of graveyard hate synergy there. Then we got Mental Blast, 1 red at instant speed, choose 1, you can either counter target blue spell, destroy target blue permanent. Most of the time I find myself countering target blue permanent. I want to keep this card in my hand because if I'm about to win, then it usually stops a Mental Misstep or a Force of Will or any other counter spell that's trying to stop me from winning. 1 mana says, no, I win. Then you got Veil of Summer, the added benefit of drawing a card as long as an opponent has cast a blue or black spell. Just like Red Elemental Blast, it's basically made to save you from winning if you're about to win and somebody wants to counter you. Any blue or black spells cannot be used to counter your spells or abilities, and permanents you control gain hexproof from blue or black spells until end of turn. Now we're moving on to more protection style cards in this deck. Heroic Intervention, 2 mana at instant speed, permanents you control gain hexproof and indestructible, saves you from board wipes, saves you from any targeted removal or any way that someone's trying to stop you from winning the game, protects all of your combo pieces. Destiny Spinner, creatures and enchantment spells you control cannot be countered. This is perfect for both Squee and Food Chain. Protects against creatures, protects against enchantments if you're trying to get them out, or if you've already got that going and you want to cast your winning creature combination, you can play this first and nothing anybody can do can stop you unless they can destroy the Destiny Spinner. Then you got Lightning Greaves, equipped creature has haste and shroud. It's not so much for the haste unless I can get Korvold beefed up after I play him and want to go in for a big swing, but it's primarily there just to protect whatever I feel is the most important combo piece creature on my battlefield at the time. Now we're going to be moving on to the draw section. These next couple cards I like to call dig cards. They don't necessarily draw, but they do dig you multiple cards deep. Starting off with Adventurous Impulse, you look at the top 3 cards of your library, you may reveal a creature or a land card from among them and put them into your hand, put the rest at the bottom of your library in any order. So for 1 mana, you're digging 3 cards deep and getting a choice of either a land or a creature, depending on what you need. Once Upon a Time is an amazing card. I feel like it's slept upon way too much. It almost needs to be in every green deck. Instant speed for 2 mana. If this is the first spell you've cast this game, you may cast it without paying its mana cost. So if this is in your opening hand, it's an amazing way to start off the game. Look at the top 5 cards of your library. You may reveal a creature or a land card from among them and put it into your hand. Put the rest at the bottom of your library in a random order. Awesome for, like I said, a good opening hand. If you're low on lands, it'll get you your lands. Maybe you can dig 5 cards deep and find any of these creature combo pieces as you're playing along. Next, we got Adventure Awaits, 2 mana at sorcery speed, but again, you get to look at the top 5 cards of your library. You may reveal a creature card from among them and put it into your hand. Put the rest at the bottom of your library in a random order, with the added benefit that if you didn't put a card into your hand this way, you get to draw a card. So, worst case scenario, you're digging 6 cards deep into your deck. Very nice. Next up, we have Abundant Harvest. Abundant Harvest says, choose land or non-land, reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal a card of the chosen kind. Put that card into your hand, put the rest at the bottom of your library in a random order. This is great for fixing. If you don't have quite enough lands, you want to make sure you hit your land drop. This is going to guarantee get that land into your hand. Maybe you just want to look for a non-land card. If you have plenty of lands in play, this could hopefully get one of your combo pieces. It can get you to a tutor. It can get you to a removal, anything that you could potentially need. So now we're going to go on to Sylvan Library, 2 mana enchantment. At the beginning of your draw step, you may draw 2 additional cards. If you do, choose 2 cards in your hand drawn this turn. For each of those cards, pay 4 life or put that card on top of your library. So you're always going to be paying 8 because you're trying to win by turn 4 or 5 here. So you're always paying 8 and you're digging 3 cards deep each turn. Valakut Awakening, 2 mana at instant speed. Put any number of cards from your hand at the bottom of your library, then draw that many cards +1. This is amazing. Gets rid of all the dead cards in your hand that you don't need at the time and allows you to replace them from the top of your deck plus an additional. And it also doubles as a land in case you desperately need to make your land drop. Next up we have Necropotence. Necropotence says skip your draw step. Whenever you discard a card, exile that card from your graveyard. Pay 1 life, exile the top card of your library face down, put that card into your hand at the beginning of the next end step. More often than not, I find myself saying, okay, I'm going to take 20, 25 damage, I'm going to draw 25 cards, and 9 times out of 10, I get everything that I need to win the game by my next turn. Egregul's Bloodfast, it's a 2 mana legendary enchantment where you pay 1 and a black, you pay 2 life, and you draw a card. At the beginning of your upkeep, if you have 5 or less life, you may transform this card. So I put this card in the deck because if you haven't noticed, I have a lot of cards that are going to be doing damage to me over time. This just makes me feel comfortable knowing that I have a way to mitigate that damage because it transforms into a legendary land, tap to add a black to your mana pool, or you can tap to sacrifice a creature and you gain life equal to the sacrificed creature's toughness. So if the game's been going on way too long and I end up losing a lot of life due to my own effects, I can start getting them back using synergy from Korvold himself. Now we're going to move on to the ramp in the deck. We're starting off with 3 visits, pretty straightforward. You search your library for a forest card, you put that card onto the battlefield, then you shuffle your library. Then you got Dark Ritual, 1 mana at instant speed, and you add 3 black to your mana pool. This is perfect for the majority of the tutors in the deck. As you notice, all of them, well not all of them, most of them are black. So this is 1 mana and then throw a tutor out right there and then get the next thing that you need. Next we have Mana Crypt. 0 to cast, and then you tap it for 2. It does do 3 damage to you for a coin flip, whether it's evens or odds, but just an amazing card, very, very good in this deck. Then you got Soul Ring, classic 1 mana, and then you get to add 2. Arcane Signet, Soul Ring, and Mana Crypt can easily get this out if you have it in your opening hand. Taps to add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. And you got Felwar Stone, does the same thing as Arcane Signet, except we need to look at our opponents. We have 3 out of the 5 colors of magic in this deck, so Felwar Stone is more likely than not going to be getting us the mana that we need. Next, we got Lotus Petal. It's a 0 drop, and tap sacrifice to add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. This is basically a treasure token that's not a token, it's an actual card in your deck. Perfect for Korvold drawing at that point, or just ramping you up really quickly. Moving on to the ramping mana dorks in this deck, starting out with Ragavan Nimble Pilferer. This card puts in work in this deck. I have never seen it not get me what I need. Whenever it enters the battlefield or deals combat damage to a player, create a treasure token. Exile the top card of that player's library. Until end of turn, you may cast that card, or you can pay 2 mana to dash him out from your hand. It has haste, and you can give a quick attack, get that treasure in, take the top card of your opponent's library, potentially cast it, and bring Ragavan back into your hand so you can just keep using him every turn without worrying about him going away. Next we have Llanowar Elves, 1 green, tap to add a green. It can all of these dorks and everything that I've been showing you can also be used as sack fodder for Korvold if he needs to come out and get rid of something. At that point you don't really need the ramp as much, it's mainly for the early game. Next we have Elves of Deep Shadow, 1 green, and it adds a black to your mana pool at a damage to you. Really good mana fixing if you need that black and you only have green starting out. Next we have Ornithopter of Paradise. This is a flying 0/2, add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. Again, Soul Ring can get this out, Mana Crypt can get this out. I've seen it happen on turn 1 multiple times. It's a great way to just really start flooding the board. Next we have a Noble Hierarch. As a goblin themed deck, it's really nice to have a 1-drop goblin that has all the colors that we need right then and there. Then of course you got Birds of Paradise, flying, add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. Then we have Lotus Cobra, Landfall. Whenever land enters the battlefield under your control, you may add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. This is a great way to start ramping out, and again, when you don't need them anymore, Korvold can eat them up and get a counter drawing you a card. Dockside Extortionist. What Korvold deck isn't complete without a Dockside Extortionist? When it enters the battlefield, you create X treasure tokens where X is the number of artifacts and enchantments your opponents control. You can use this to cast Korvold fairly quickly if Korvold's already out. Sacrificing those treasures is going to add mana of any color to your mana pool, and you're also going to be drawing cards simultaneously. If you do this in the right order, you could end up using Dockside and Korvold to draw into the combo pieces you need to win the game, giving you the mana you need to do it. Carpet of Flowers, 1 mana enchantment. During your main phase, you may add up to X mana of any one color to your mana pool, where X is the number of islands target opponent controls. In this high-powered setting format, cEDH, you're probably going to be finding a lot of blue players, so this is perfect for adding mana to your mana pool because somebody wants to play counterspells, and if for whatever reason you're not playing anybody with blue, this just turns into 1 mana sacrifice fodder for Korvold. Squandering Resources, this is another card that's put in a tremendous amount of work in this deck. For 2 mana, it's an enchantment that says sacrifice a land, add to your mana pool 1 mana of that type that the sacrifice land could produce. Play this ability as a mana source. So you can tap all your lands to add the mana, then immediately sacrifice them to add even more mana, draw cards if Korvold's in play, and if not, it just gives you the mana that you need to cast all the remaining combo pieces to win the game. Now we're going to be moving on to the lands in the deck. So when it came to the lands, I've tried to follow a rule of 3. So we have the 3 dual lands here, Bayou, Taiga, and Badlands, and I have no problems admitting to anybody that these are all proxies. They're just super expensive, but they're perfect in this deck, and I had to have them. Next we have Overgrown Tomb, Stomping Ground, and Blood Crypt. These are the 3 lands in my colors that say pay 2 life, and they come into play untapped. They also count as the Swamp Forest, Mountain Forest, Swamp Mountain. And then you got Verdant Catacombs, Wooded Foothills, and Bloodstained Mire. These cards all search up the first 6 cards that I showed you. And then we have Woodland Cemetery, Rootbound Crag, and Dragon Skull Summit. These do have a downside. They enter the battlefield tapped, but you're most likely going to have them come into play untapped. I also added Zatora's Proving Ground into the deck because it counts as a swamp, mountain, or forest. So usually I'll use my 3 visits or any of my first searches early on in the game to get this one. It does come into play tapped, which is a bit of a downside, but again, it makes sure that all 3 of these can come into play untapped and I don't have to worry about it. And if I don't need it, I can just pay 3 to cycle it and draw me a card. So next we have Prismatic Vista. Pay 1 life, sacrifice it, search your library for a basic land. It's great for fixing in the early game, and if you're not worried about that, it's basically just a free draw for Korvold. And then we have Command Tower, obviously included in the deck, adds 1 mana of any color in your commander's color identity. Then we got Mana Confluence on top of that. Pay 1 life, add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. Following that up with City of Brass does the exact same thing. Whenever it becomes tapped, it deals 1 damage, but you add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. Next we have the utility lands, starting out with Ancient Tomb. It's basically Soul Ring in the form of a land. You tap it to add 2 colorless mana, and it does 2 damage to you. Next we got Reliquary Tower. This deck tends to draw cards very fast, and you don't really want to be getting rid of stuff if you don't have to. This basically says, I don't have to. Next up we got War Room, taps to add a colorless, but you can pay 3 and pay life equal to the number of colors in your commander's color identity. Draw a card. It's really nice to have a draw land in there that doesn't sacrifice after you use it the 1 time. You can use this every turn if you need to, just to keep your hand going with gas. Next we have Beseiju, Who Endures. This is a utility land that actually taps for a green. It's nice to have some color in there with the added benefit of it being removal. Its channel ability allows you to destroy target artifact, enchantment, or a non-basic land an opponent controls, and it costs 1 less if Korvold's in play. So 1 green, get rid of a nasty problem. And then finally we have the basic lands. Following the rule of 3, I've got 3 forests, I've got 3 swamps, and I've got 3 mountains. Thanks for making it to the end of the video. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. All my socials are linked in the description below if you want to follow me and keep up to date with everything EDH outside of YouTube. If you're thinking about making this deck or just want to use it for inspiration, I've included a link to the deck list below as well. Thanks again for watching, and stay foil.